Okay, let's unpack this. Picture the scene. It's a Tuesday, maybe November. It's dark outside, raining sideways,
Oh, yeah.
and you are deep in the trenches of boarding life. The alarm goes off way too early, and you're just immediately hit with the reality of it all.
The ecosystem.
The ecosystem. You've got double maths, then English, a mad rush to the dining hall. There's a queue. You scarf down lunch, get changed for sport.
And it's freezing cold on the pit.
Freezing, then back for prep. Deadlines are looming. And on top of all of that, you're navigating the social dynamics of living with 60 other people.
It is a relentless machine. I mean, if you haven't lived it, it's hard to understand the sheer velocity of it.
It really is.
The source material puts it perfectly. Lessons, prep, activities, social time, expectations, constant deadlines. It's a 247 cycle.
It absolutely feels like a machine. And look, let's be honest, some days are fine. You're on top of it. But other days, it feels like the walls are closing in. You feel completely overwhelmed. And that is the specific feeling we are addressing today. We're diving into a really interesting set of notes titled, What a Boarder Can Learn from Jonny Wilkinson.
And right there, before anyone reaches for the skip button because they don't like rugby or they think sport has nothing to do with academics, just pause.
Right.
This isn't a deep dive about drop goals. We are not going to talk about tackle technique.
No, this is about the operating system running in your head. The central question here is fascinating. In those high-pressure moments, an A-level exam, a scholarship interview, a big match why, is talent so rarely enough? Because you see plenty of talented kids, crash and burn when the heat turns up.
That is the hook. Talent is just the baseline. I mean, everyone at that top level, top sets in school, elite sport, they all have talent. What this source argues is that performance, sustainable performance, comes from a psychological framework.
And Jonny Wilkinson is the case study.
He is the case study, but not because he was good at rugby. It's because he was arguably the first, modern athlete to treat his mind exactly like he treated his body.
He's a student of high performance.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to extract that framework. The source breaks it down into 4 pillars: preparation, routine, reflection, and quiet discipline.
And we need to translate those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to know if this stuff actually works for a teenager trying to survive boarding school, or if it's all just motivational poster fluff.
I promise you, it is not fluff. It's survival skills. It's cognitive management.
All right, let's start with the first pillar then.
Yeah.
Preparation. The source calls this the anatomy of confidence. Now, I have a bone to pick here immediately.
Go on.
Everyone knows you need to prepare. Teachers say do your prep. Parents say revise. It's the most cliche advice in education. What is Wilkinson doing that's different? Why is this a deep dive?
You're right. Preparation is a boring word. It just sounds like a chore. But the source makes a really critical distinction here between practice and purposeful preparation. Most students practice until they get it right. Wilkinson prepared until he couldn't get it wrong.
Okay, that sounds good as a soundbite, but unpack that. What does that actually look like?
It's about debunking the myth of confidence. A lot of students and adults, frankly, operate on what I call the weather report theory of confidence.
The weather report theory.
Yeah. You wake up on the morning of the big exam, you check your internal emotional weather, and you ask, do I feel confident today?
Right. It's passive. You're just checking for a vibe. I hope I feel good today.
Exactly. If you feel good, great. If you feel anxious, you assume you're going to fail. Wilkinson's reality, and what the source really emphasizes, is that confidence is a logical consequence of evidence. It's data-driven.
Oh.
He didn't stand on the pitch hoping he could make the kick. He knew he could because he had a bank of 10,000 successful kicks stored in his memory.
So confidence isn't an emotion. It's a calculation.
It is a calculation based on the work you've done. And if you haven't done the work, your brain knows. You can't trick yourself. The anxiety students feel often comes from a deep-seated knowledge that they haven't actually prepared enough to handle the variation in the exam.
That's a brutal truth. Your brain keeps the score. But let's apply this. Most listeners aren't preparing for World Cup. They're preparing for GCSEs.
Right.
The source lists some boarding life translations of this mindset. And I have to say, some of them seem, well, incredibly mundane.
Which one caught your eye?
Packing your bag the night before. I mean, it feels a bit like something your mom nags you about, not some high-performance psychological hack.
I know. It sounds trivial.
How does putting a textbook in a bag relate to elite performance?
Okay, but let's look at the psychology. This is about 2 things: decision fatigue and cortisol management.
Go on. Decision fatigue.
Right. When you wake up in a boarding house, The environment is chaotic, it's loud, people are moving, the clock is ticking. If you are scrambling for your tie, looking for your calculator, wondering where your prep folder is, you are spiking your cortisol, your stress hormone, before you've even had toast.
You're burning mental energy on low-level tasks.
Precisely. You have a finite amount of decision-making energy in a day. Wilkinson's whole approach was about controlling the controllables. By packing the bag the night before, you are banking a win.
Okay.
You wake up, and the first thing your brain registers is, I am ready. That just lowers the friction for the entire day.
So it's not really about the bag. It's about protecting your bandwidth for the stuff that actually matters, like that double maths lesson.
Correct. You enter the classroom calm, while the guy next to you, who spent 20 minutes looking for his pen, enters the classroom in a state of low-level panic. Who is going to learn more?
Good point. The source also mentions doing prep properly, not quickly. This feels like the academic equivalent of Wilkinson's target practice. I think every boarder listening just winced.
Oh, absolutely. We've all been there.
It's 7:00 p.m., prep starts, and the goal is just to get words on the page so you can go to the common room.
And that is practice in the bad sense. You're just going through the motions. Purposeful preparation means engaging with the material so that you are building that evidence bank.
That evidence bank again?
Yeah. If you rush it, you might fool the teacher, but you haven't fooled your brain. Come exam time, your brain will say, hey, remember that Tuesday in November? We didn't actually learn this, we just scribbled it. And that's where the panic comes from.
So you can't withdraw confidence if you haven't deposited the work.
That is the perfect analogy. You cannot overdraw that account.
Okay, but here is where I get a little skeptical.
Yeah.
You can prepare all you want. You can have the perfectly packed bag, the beautiful notes you can have studied for weeks. But then you walk into the exam hall, or you step onto the pitch, and your heart starts hammering.
The pressure hits.
Yeah. The source reveals something interesting about Wilkinson here. He wasn't a robot, was he?
Far from it. This was, for me, the most powerful part of the source. We assume these elite performers are just ice cold. Wilkinson lived with intense, almost crippling anxiety. He was terrified of letting the team down.
So the preparation didn't cure the anxiety, because I think that's what students hope for. If I study enough, I won't be scared.
No, and this is such a crucial lesson. If you think, I'm nervous, therefore I'm not ready, you are making a false correlation. Nerves are biological. They are your body mobilizing energy.
So what did the prep do?
Wilkinson used preparation to make the pressure manageable, not to make it disappear.
It shifts the dynamic.
It shifts it from panic pressure to performance pressure. The source lists the benefits. Preparation reduces cognitive stress because you don't have to think about what to do. You just execute the plan. It gives you a sense of agency.
Agency is key. In a boarding school, you so often feel like you have no control. The bell rings, you move. The teacher talks, you write. This suggests preparation is a way of clawing back some of that control.
Exactly that. When you walk into an interview, if you have rehearsed it 10 times, your brain can say to your body, okay, heart rate is up, palms are sweaty, that's fine, we have a script.
But if you haven't prepared...
If you haven't prepared, your brain says, alert, we are in danger, and we have no map. That's when you freeze.
So the goal isn't a life without pressure. That's just impossible. The goal is a life where you have the tools to navigate it.
Which brings us smoothly to the second pillar. Because you can't rely on willpower alone to do this preparation every single day. Willpower runs out.
Right.
You need a structure to hold it all together. You need routine.
Routine. This is a tricky one. Boarding schools are obsessed with routine. Bells, roll calls, lights out, meal times. And the source notes that students often feel this is just a way to control them. It feels restrictive.
Let me be free. I want to study when I want. It's a natural teenage reaction.
Totally. Why do I have to eat at 1:00 p.m.? Why can't I study at midnight? But the source flips the script here. It suggests viewing routine not as a cage, but as a skeleton. It holds you up.
I love that metaphor. A skeleton.
How so, though? Because to me, doing the same thing every day just sounds boring.
It goes back to that cognitive load concept we just touched on. If you have to decide every single day when to wake up, when to eat, when to study, when to wind down, you're making hundreds of micro decisions.
And every decision burns glucose.
It is exhausting. Wilkinson used routine to outsource the decision-making.
So he didn't have to ask, should I practice kicking today? It was just Tuesday at 10 a.m., so that's what happens?
Yes, exactly. It automates the basics so you can use your brain power for the complex stuff. And the source suggests positive routines for boarders. It's not just about following the school's rules, but building your own micro-routines within that framework.
Give me a concrete example. What does a micro-routine look like for a 16-year-old in a boarding house?
Okay, a great one mentioned is the reset routine. In a boarding house, you live where you work. That is psychologically really difficult. If you have a bad maths lesson or an argument with a friend, you walk back to the house and you're still in that environment. You can't escape it.
It lingers. You carry the bad mood into prep. You're staring at your biology book, but you're just replaying the argument in your head.
Right. So you need a mechanism to wipe the slate clean. Wilkinson had a physical trigger, clasping his hands, to reset his focus on the pitch. For a student, it might be. When I walk through the door of the house, I put my headphones on for 5 minutes, listen to one specific song, and then I'm in home mode.
I like that. It's a psychological airlock.
It is. Or a wind-down routine. Sleep is the biggest casualty in boarding. You're surrounded by friends, there's noise, there's FOMO.
Always.
Having a strict 20-minute ritual phone away, read fiction, brush teeth, it signals to the body that it's time to sleep, regardless of the chaos in the corridor.
The source has this line I love. Good routines turn effort into progress. That feels like a transmission analogy again. You can rev the engine, that's your effort, but without the gears of routine, you aren't moving forward.
You're just making noise and burning fuel.
Exactly.
That's a fantastic way to put it. Routine captures the effort, and once you're moving, you need to know if you're actually going in the right direction. And that's the third pillar, reflection.
This is the part I think people skip. You finish the exam, you finish the match, and you just want to move on, especially if it went badly. Who wants to dwell on a failure?
It's human nature to look away. But the source points out that Wilkinson reflected regardless of the outcome. Whether he won the World Cup or lost a club game, he went through the process.
But the source is very specific here, and I want to make sure we get this right. Reflection is not self-criticism.
This is so vital. Most students think reflecting means sitting in their room beating themselves up. I'm so stupid. Why did I write that? I'm terrible at French.
That's not reflection.
That is not reflection. That is rumination. Rumination is emotional and circular. Reflection is analytical and linear. It's a tool for learning, not a stick to beat yourself with.
Okay, so what does that look like?
The source proposes 3 specific questions. And I would challenge any listener to actually try this for just 1 week.
Let's hear them.
Question 1. What worked well?
Which we usually ignore because we're wired to spot danger and mistakes. We just glaze over the wins.
Exactly. You need to bank the wins. If you studied a certain way and got an A, you need to consciously register that so you can repeat it. Question 2, what didn't work?
And that's not, why am I bad, but what process failed?
Yes. Cramming until 2 a.m. didn't work because my brain was foggy the next day. It's an objective observation. It removes the emotion. You treat your life like an experiment.
And the third question.
And this is the game changer. What will I do differently next time? This transforms it from a complaint into a plan. It closes the loop.
It closes the loop. I like that.
The source says, without reflection, we simply repeat the same mistakes. Reflection is the only way to turn experience into growth. If you aren't reflecting, you're just getting older and not better.
Just getting older, not better.
Yeah.
Oof, that hits hard. It's the difference between having 10 years of experience and 1 year of experience repeated 10 times.
Precisely. You have to extract the lesson.
And this leads us to the final pillar. We've talked about all the internal stuff prep, routine, reflection. Now we need to talk about how you exist in the community. The source calls this quiet discipline.
I found this section really refreshing because boarding schools, and schools in general, they tend to glorify the loud leaders.
Oh, for sure.
The first XV captain, the head of house, the person who speaks up first in every single debate. It can feel like if you're an introvert, you can't be a leader.
We have a cultural bias towards the alpha personality. But Wilkinson, he creates a counter-narrative. He was never the shouter. He wasn't the one giving the Braveheart speeches in the changing room.
So how did he lead?
Through standards.
Mm-hmm.
The source calls it leading through standards, work ethic, and consistency.
He set the temperature. That's it. Think about the boarding house dynamic again. It's exam week. Everyone is freaking out. Hysteria is contagious. In that environment, the person who is calm, who is organized, who is just quietly getting on with their work,
They become a magnetic force.
they do. The source lists staying calm when others are stressed as a key leadership trait.
It is a superpower. You don't have to stand on a chair. If you are the one who is ready on time, whose kid is clean, who treats people with respect, and who doesn't join in with all the drama, people naturally look to you.
You provide stability.
I love the phrase quiet discipline.
Yeah.
It suggests that you don't need permission to be a leader. You don't need a badge or a title.
You just need to hold yourself to a standard. And in a noisy world, and a boarding house is a very noisy world, quiet consistency is incredibly loud. People trust it.
It's sustainable, too. I mean, trying to be the hype man all the time must be exhausting. Just being solid is something you can do every day.
And that brings us to the conclusion the source draws. We've got these 4 pillars: preparation, routine, reflection, quiet discipline. Why does this matter? Is it just to get better grades?
The source zooms out here. It says boarding school is the perfect laboratory for these skills. But the point isn't just to survive school, is it?
No, not at all. The argument is that these are life skills. Think about it. When you leave school and go to university, no one is going to wake you up.
Yeah.
No one is going to tell you when to study.
Right.
When you enter the workforce, employers aren't looking for people who can just pass exams. They're looking for people who can manage pressure, who can self-regulate, and who can learn from mistakes.
It's an operating system for adulthood.
It really is. The source argues that while you're stressing about the geography grade or the Saturday match, the real education is happening underneath. You are learning how to function as a high-performing human.
There's a concept mentioned at the very end, the illusion of effortlessness. I want to touch on that.
This is one of my favorite insights. We watch Jonny Wilkinson kick a goal, or we watch a brilliant student get straight A's, and we think, oh, it's easy for them. They're just a natural...
We see the result, not the process. We think it's magic.
We see the 80 minutes on the pitch. We don't see the thousands of hours of boring, repetitive preparation. And the source reminds us, it is never effortless. It just looks effortless because the friction has been removed through discipline.
That's empowering, though, because it means talent isn't some magic lottery ticket. It's a process you can actually replicate.
Exactly. You are currently in the thousands of hours phase. It's supposed to feel hard. That's the work.
And that brings us to the final thought I want to leave our listeners with today. The source says success isn't built in the final exam. It's not built in the championship match.
No.
It's built on a random Tuesday afternoon.
The ordinary days.
Boarding life gives you thousands of these ordinary days. Just random gray Tuesdays where you could slack off, you could cut corners, you could leave your room a mess. Or you could do the prep properly. You could pack the bag. You could do the reflection.
And that is the question the source leaves hanging. What are you doing with your ordinary days? Because that is where the confidence is being manufactured.
It's not the glamorous stuff. It's the boring stuff. But the boring stuff is what makes you bulletproof.
Couldn't have said it better.
Well, there is plenty to chew on there. Whether you are a boarder, a parent, or just someone trying to get a handle on their own chaotic ecosystem, there is some deep wisdom in the Wilkinson method.
Preparation, routine, reflection, discipline. Simple words, difficult execution, but massive results.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one. Go pack your bag.